Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that someone stole 10% of your money. Not from your wallet, not from your bank account, not through a scam, but legally. And the strangest part? You thank them for it. Sounds impossible. Yet, millions of people around the world are losing purchasing power every single year without realizing it. You work harder, you earn more, you save more, but somehow life keeps getting more expensive.
Oh
The house
no!
you wanted becomes unaffordable. The car costs more. Food costs more. Education costs more. Healthcare costs more. And your savings never seem to catch up. Most people blame bad luck. Some blame politicians. Others blame rich people. But very few understand the real system operating behind the scenes, a system economists call financial repression. And once you understand it, you'll never look at money the same way again. Let's talk about Elon. Elon is a hard-working office employee. In 2015, Elon saved $10,000. He felt proud. No debt, no unnecessary spending. He believed he was doing everything right. His bank offered 2% annual interest. So Elon left the money there. Safe, secure, growing, or so he thought. 10 years later, Elon checked his account. His savings had grown to roughly $12,200. He smiled until he looked at prices. The apartment he wanted had doubled. Food prices had jumped. Healthcare became more expensive. Education costs exploded. The same lifestyle that cost $10,000 in 2015 now required almost $15,000. Elon had more dollars, but less buying power. He didn't lose money, yet he became poorer. That's financial repression. And it happens every day. What is financial repression? Financial repression sounds complicated, but the idea is simple. It's when governments and central banks create conditions where your savings grow slower than inflation. That's it. Let me simplify. Imagine inflation is running at 7%. Your bank pays 2%. Every year, you gain 2%. You lose 7%. Net result? You're effectively losing 5% slowly, silently, year after year. Nobody sends you a bill, nobody takes cash from your account, yet your wealth shrinks. That's why many experts call inflation the invisible tax. Why does it happen? Now, you might be wondering, why would governments allow this? The answer is surprisingly simple. Because governments often owe enormous amounts of debt, and debt is easier to repay when money becomes less valuable. Imagine you borrow $100,000 today. 10 years later, inflation doubles prices. Your salary rises. Everything costs more. But your debt remains $100,000. In real terms, that debt became easier to repay. Governments use the same principle. When countries owe trillions of dollars, inflation quietly reduces the real burden of that debt. The debt doesn't disappear. It simply becomes less painful. And who pays the price? Savers. Ordinary people. People keeping cash in the bank. The biggest lie. Most people believe for decades people were taught, save money and you'll be financially secure. That advice made sense when savings accounts paid meaningful interest. But today's world is different. Imagine two friends, Sarah and Mike. Sarah keeps $100,000 in cash. Mike invests $100,000 in productive assets, stocks, businesses, real estate. 10 years pass. Inflation averages 5%. Sarah feels safe. Mike feels uncertain. But after a decade, Sarah discovers her purchasing power has been cut dramatically. Mike owns assets that grew alongside inflation. The risk wasn't investing, the risk was standing still. And that's the lesson most people never learn. Cash feels safe. But over long periods, cash can be one of the riskiest assets you own. The coffee test. Here's a simple experiment. Imagine your favorite coffee costs $2 today. Inflation averages 5%. In 15 years, that same coffee costs over $4. Nothing changed. Same coffee, same cup, same cafe. The money changed. This is why older generations often tell stories like, I bought my first house for $30,000. Or, A movie ticket used to cost $1. Prices didn't become crazy, money became weaker, and financial repression accelerates that process. How? The wealthy protect themselves. This is where things become interesting. The wealthy understand something many people don't. They don't save money, they save assets. Think about that. They don't store wealth in cash. They store wealth in things that grow. Businesses, stocks, land, real estate, infrastructure, ownership. When inflation rises, the price of assets often rises too. Their wealth adjusts. Meanwhile, savers watch prices climb while their bank accounts struggle to keep up. This isn't because rich people are smarter, it's because they understand the rules of the game. The most dangerous place for money. Your money may remain numerically unchanged, but its purchasing power slowly melts away, year after year. The solution. Now, before anyone misunderstands, this isn't about panic. This isn't about buying risky investments. And this isn't financial advice. This is about education. The first step is awareness, because you cannot solve a problem you don't understand. The second step is learning the difference between saving money and growing wealth. Saving protects money. Investing helps preserve purchasing power. The third step is time. The earlier you start learning about investing, ownership, and assets, the more powerful compounding becomes. Not because you're trying to get rich overnight, but because you're trying to avoid becoming poorer slowly. A powerful example. Let's compare two people. Both save $500 every month for 30 years. Person A keeps everything in cash. Person B invests with an average return of 8%. After 30 years, person A contributed $180,000. Person B contributed the same $180,000. But person B's portfolio grows to over $700,000. The difference wasn't income. The difference wasn't intelligence. The difference was understanding how money works. The biggest financial gap in society often isn't effort, it's financial education. Final message. The greatest threat to your wealth may not be a recession. It may not be a market crash. It may not be losing your job. It may be something far quieter, something happening every single day. Financial repression doesn't arrive like a storm. It arrives like rust, slow, invisible, easy to ignore, until one day you realize that years of hard work bought less than you expected. The people who protect themselves aren't necessarily richer. They simply understand the system. They understand that money sitting still slowly loses power, and that ownership beats storage over the long run. So tonight, ask yourself one question. Is your money growing, or is it merely sitting still while the world moves forward? Because the answer to that question may determine where you stand financially 10 years from now. And unlike inflation, time is the one thing you can never get back.